Flying can be stressful even for the most seasoned flyers. Long lines to check baggage, even longer lines to get through security, tiny seats, stuffed overhead bins, and minimal restrooms for a full cabin. And you're like, yeah, that's why I want to know about first class and business class, yo. Hi y'all, Shelli, Pelly, Eddie Parker Confidential. Okay, we're going to talk first class and business class. What's the deal? What's to expect? Worth it or not? So you can make your own decision. We've flown business and first class for years, probably close to 20 years. So I have a lot of experience, and I do what I do because I love to share. Who wants a shout out? Every single Tuesday and Friday, I'm going to give new subscribers and a shout out to one of my amazing subscribers. Comment below, say a little something about yourself, and maybe I'll give a shout out to you next week. Two things to remember. Some things will vary depending on if you're traveling domestically or internationally, and perks can vary from airline to airline and even from plane to plane. The difference between business and first class. Generally speaking, when you're traveling domestic, the plane will have two cabins. One, the main cabin or coach, and the second one, business class. When you're flying internationally, most will have a first class, a business class, and a main cabin. Now, the difference between business and first class. First class offers a more enhanced experience than business class. There are even fewer passengers, so the ratio of flight attendant to passenger is even smaller. Fancier food, and many times a separate suite entrance to the first class cabin from everybody else. Let's start with arrival at the airport. It isn't just the perks that you get on the plane, it is the perks that you receive prior to even boarding the plane that I feel make the biggest difference. Upon arriving at the airport, each airline will have a dedicated business/first class line to check your bags. We've never ever waited more than 4 to 5 minutes to check our bags, and honestly, generally speaking, we just walk right up. You know what I'm talking about. You get to the airport and there is just a freaking long line snaking all the way back. No, not with first or business class. Also on your luggage, you can check up to 2 pieces in addition to your carry-on in business class complimentary, up to 3 pieces in first class complimentary. Also, the weight limit for coach is 50 pounds per bag. The weight limit in business or first is 70 pounds. That's another little nicety. Second, the security line. How many times have you seen the general security line snaking all throughout the airport? Most every airport will have a dedicated line for first and business class passengers. If you don't see it right away, simply ask an airport worker, where is the first class line, please? They'll direct you to it. That line is always a fraction of the length of the security line. Well worth it. Dedicated lines for baggage check, not only a time saver, but a stress reducer, because you know you're going to get to your flight on time. To me, that is worth its weight in gold. Hey y'all, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, we have brand new content every Tuesday and Friday. Hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you as part of the community. Lounge access. Whether your flight's been delayed, canceled, or if you've just gotten to the airport super early, instead of waiting at the gate where inevitably there's some screaming kid, it's crowded, it's smelly. Instead, business and first class tickets give you access to a lot of the lounges. It's a nice respite from the chaos. It offers more space, big comfy chairs, snacks, food, drinks, all complimentary. And in addition to that, USB ports where you can recharge all of your electronics or just sit and get some work done in the interim. At any rate, it is just much more relaxing than sitting out by the gate with everybody else. Priority boarding always for first and business class. You've probably seen, if you travel a lot, they'll have a general boarding line and then another line for first and business class. This allows you to board first and just get nice and settled. Now, we don't always do that. When we travel, we know we're going to be sitting for a long time, and Oliver and I are both kind of antsy. So we usually wait until the last minute just so we can kind of walk around and have our freedom before we know we're going to be seated. No fighting over overhead bin space. How stressful is it if you're flying coach thinking, oh my gosh, I hope that there is overhead bin space, because if there's not, you've got to now check your carry-on, or having to find bin space somewhere else, which sometimes can be rows and rows back. The space above you in the first class cabin is your dedicated spot. It is yours. Let's talk first class international. Many times first class international will have a separate boarding area / suite from everybody else, even from business. You'll have the main cabin, business, and first class. Business will board from a separate area, but you are still with the rest of the plane. The first class passengers are in a nice little suite. Depending on the airport, it may or may not have some refreshments. It's quiet, it is more relaxing. What's better, you board into the first class cabin directly from the suite. So literally you don't even see anybody else. The second advantage is that you also don't have people hitting your shoulders or bumping into you with luggage. It's just much more calming. Once you're seated, the flight attendant will always come over, introduce herself. Good morning, Mr. Pelly. Good morning, Mrs. Pelly. My name is Jane. I'll be your flight attendant servicing you today. Next, they'll offer you a drink, and yes, cocktails are complimentary in first class or business class, and they'll usually bring you a ramekin of warm roasted nuts. If your trip is 3 hours or longer, you will more than likely get a meal. I have never experienced not getting a meal on a trip that was a minimum of 3 hours. On international flights, you should receive a small toiletry bag that has all of the necessities that you might want. A sleep mask, fuzzy socks, toothbrush, toothpaste, dental floss, maybe some mouthwash, earplugs, that sort of thing. That's yours for the flight. You should also have individual use pillows, blankets, your own dedicated TV screen that has movies, TV shows, news, and yes, of course it is complimentary. It's included in your ticket price. Also on an international flight, they will usually deliver a menu for you. The menu is a list of the items that they will be offering you throughout the entire duration of the flight. They'll usually give you 3 choices for breakfast, 3 for lunch, 3 for dinner, and also come around with snacks intermittently throughout. You don't need to order everything first. It's just nice to have it there to peruse and see what you might like to have. On domestic flights, they usually do have in-flight entertainment, but I will tell you, we flew to Texas last week on American Airlines and they did not. If I may say so, although the flight attendant was lovely and it is not her fault, 2 things with American domestic. 1, there was no in-flight entertainment even though we were flying business class. They also did not put a linen tablecloth down on our trays when we were being served our meal. That may sound nitpicky, but you want what you're paying for, and that is a cost-cutting measure. Pro tip, if you're traveling first or business class and you're booked in the first row, ladies, you will have to put your handbag up above the overhead bin for takeoff and departure. For that reason, I usually like to book anywhere from the 2nd row back to the 6th row because I like keeping my handbag next to me. That's a personal choice. It does offer a bit more leg room. Next, not all business and first class offerings and perks are the same. This is really important for you to know. The newer the plane, the more expensive the ticket. So before you splurge, be sure to check the make and model of the plane and look at the seating configuration. We have had an instance where we didn't do that because we weren't thinking. It was an international flight. We were flying to London. The seat did not recline back 180 degrees. So you're sleeping sort of somewhat up. And here's the kicker. The seating layout was such that you had 8 seats going across, the center portion of the plane. So you paid, $6,000 or $7,000 per ticket, and we're sleeping next to some dude that's next to you. In my opinion, that's egregious to charge a business or first class fare, and yet you're still kind of sleeping next to somebody and you can't recline all the way back. My point is, be sure to check the make and model of the plane, look at the seating configuration, see if the seats recline 180 degrees. Do all of that before you purchase. That's just a pro tip. Before meals are served, the flight attendants will always come around and give you a heated rolled towel, usually with lemon on it, to wash your hands off. Don't rub your face like that. It's not something you should do. Put it nicely on the center console in between the seats. They'll come around and take it from you. The flight attendant will usually come and say, "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Pelly. Will you be having lunch with us today?" I always say yes. And then they'll give you usually 2 selections and you choose your selection. Your tray table, where is it? All right, in coach, it's always in front of you, or generally speaking, it's usually in front of you. In first or business, it slides down vertically into the armrest of your seat. You just flip the armrest open just like you would the center console of your car, pull the tray up and over and across from you. That's where your tray table is. They'll come over and put a nice white linen tablecloth on, unless you fly American, which they didn't do that, and you'll be served your meal with actual real cutlery and nice china. On international flights, they always come around with a dessert cart, and I mean like a legit dessert cart, you guys. Okay, when we flew to Paris on Delta, which Delta has an amazing first class they came around with a sundae cart, and I mean a real sundae cart. 5 different flavors of Haagen-Dazs, hot fudge, caramel, marshmallow, whipped cream, nuts, cherry, and the whipped cream wasn't like ready whipped. It was like in a nice silver bowl. They would put a little dollop on it. I had 2. Landing. Of course, when you land, you're always one of the first ones off, which is nice because you're not waiting for a million people to get off. The second thing that I really love is that you always get your baggage first. The airlines specifically put the luggage of first and business class customers out first so that you are one of the first to get your luggage. That's a really nice touch as well. Bottom line, if it's your first time flying business or first class, you can expect several perks that you wouldn't get flying economy, including priority check-in, dedicated security line, more comfy, roomy chairs, enhanced food and drink options, and overall just much more personalized service. The airlines also really want to attract the business and first class consumer because it's higher margins for them. It is a much, much better experience. Is it worth it? Duh. I mean, yes, it's totally worth it. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please ask them below. And until next week, I'll see you guys later. Bye.